Good day to all of you. Today we start on a topic called listening skills, a very important skill for all of us, sadly, missing in most of us. So let's talk about listening skills. The facilitator here can ask the audience sitting in front, why do we listen? What is the objective of listening? Gather some of the information that comes from the audience, write it down on the flip chart, and then go to the slide where it is debriefed as following. We listen basically to obtain information, to understand what the person is saying. For, of course, enjoyment, we have to have a laugh with our friends once in a while. And, of course, most importantly, to learn about things happening around us, to learn about people, to learn about emotions, to learn about events. Now, the ability to listen carefully will allow all of us to do the following. We will be able to better understand others' perspective. It really helps us to build a strong rapport with people. And when we listen, it shows that we support the people around us, their views, their point of understanding. We're able to answer questions much better if we can listen well. And also the underlying meanings in what others say, we are able to catch on to that, understand that, and respond much better when we know how to listen properly. Before the slide comes on, you can ask the audience the difference between hearing and listening. Ask them if they really know what the difference is. What is hearing and what is listening? Once you get some responses from them, open the slide and show the difference. Basically, hearing is nothing but an act of perceiving sound by the ear. You are just hearing some sound. Whereas listening is where you consciously choose to listen to what the person is saying, the underlying emotions, the facts, the feelings, everything the person that is trying to convey, you are processing that information, and that is listening. So this is the difference between hearing and listening. In hearing, it is just sound. But in listening, we are perceiving, trying to understand what the person is saying. This is a more scientific explanation of what listening is versus what hearing is. So, hearing is a physiological sensory processes by which auditory sensations are received by the ears and transmitted to the brain. Just that, nothing else. Whereas listening is a complex psychological procedure involving interpreting and understanding the significance of the sensory experience. That is why what I said right in the beginning of the session, that listening is something that we all know, but sadly missing in most of us. Bring on the slide and ask them to read it, look at the cartoon, and interpret the meaning of this cartoon. How can I listen to you if you don't say the things I want to hear? Get some feedback, some inputs from the audience. This basically slide is for us to, have a little laugh. But there is a very serious meaning behind this. How can I listen to you if you don't say the things I want to hear? Which basically means that I listen, or rather I hear only what I want to hear. And this brings us to the next slide, which is flaws of listening. Flaws of listening: selective attention, selective perception, and selective retention. So basically this means that I only attend to, or I only see and hear what I want to see and hear. This is selective attention. What is selective perception? I only understand what I want to understand, nothing more than that. And I only remember what I want to remember. So this is selective retention. Now, unfortunately, this flaw, or rather the flaws of listening, selective attention, selective perception, and selective retention, is something which there in almost all of us. This is in short called selective APR. These are the flaws of listening. In this slide, the facilitator should ask the audience to get into smaller groups and give them the task of the following. Now that we have understood the difference between hearing and listening, and also we have understood the importance of listening, active listening, what are the things that happen when we listen well, when we actively listening, or in other words, we empathetically listen? What are the things that will happen? Get them into smaller groups, let them discuss, come up with certain points, and then ask them to make a presentation. So every group makes a presentation, which the facilitator can write down one by one on a flip chart. Once this task is over, you can open the slide and take them through all these points which are mentioned on this slide, one by one. You can read out every sentence one by one and ask for responses wherever you feel a response is required, or just move on. This is a debrief of what empathetic listening or active listening is. So, empathetic listening consists of three very important aspects. The first aspect is, I understand your problem and how you feel about it. I am interested in what you are saying and I am not judging you. So, this is the fundamental of empathetic listening. Number two, the listener unmistakably conveys this message through words and non-verbal behaviors, including body language. Now, this is a very critical point. Whenever we communicate something, we do it through our voice, through our body, and through the words that we use. This is basically called 3 V's: voice, verbal, and vocal. So our body also speaks, our voice also speaks, the words that we use are also speaking. So all three have to combine together, or rather synchronize with each other when we listen to somebody. Which means if I am listening to somebody and I want to be an empathetic listener, then my eyes, my body language, my tone, my hand gestures have to convey that I am listening. Now the third point encourages the speaker to fully express herself or himself free of interruption, criticism, or being told what to do. Again, this is a very critical point. Many a times when somebody is talking or trying to convey something and is finding it difficult to convey, we as an active listener, empathetic listener, we have to encourage the person or create the right kind of environment for the person to speak openly. And we have to not judge the person. We have to avoid making assumptions. That is very critical, and that is sometimes the biggest mistake we do when we are trying to listen to somebody. We have our own assumptions, our biases and prejudices, and this adds to the flaws of listening. So we have to be careful about this, and these 3 points the facilitator has to ensure that the audience understands. This is the last slide, and this is where, after ensuring, feeling the pulse of the audience, that they have really understood what empathetic listening is, the facilitator can wind up this session by saying, an open ear is the only believable sign of an open heart. And from here, you can go on to talk about heartfulness meditation, because we have, that link has been established from listening skills, having an open heart, and then going on to heartfulness.